Hi, so I recently found this half-finished video on my iPad and I thought I'd finish it up and release it. But first I would like to clarify that I am no longer in 8th grade. That shit's embarrassing. If you're currently in middle school, shame on you. Do better. So please don't think I'm in middle school. If I ever get mistaken for a middle schooler, I will simply perish on sight. But in all seriousness, sorry for disappearing for a year. Enjoy the video. Depending upon when I finish this and when you personally are watching this, summer could very well be over. But currently for me, summer vacation has just started, as well as my high school career. That is correct, I have just finished my last year at middle school. So in honor of me escaping that hellhole, I'm going to be spilling some tea on my old junior high. I'm 100% not telling you where I went to middle school, but I will tell you that I went to a public American junior high school. So of course, a bunch of insane stuff happened. If you are watching this and you weren't raised in the US, you're probably going to think this is a bunch of bullcrap I made up. But let me tell you, schools in America are built on a foundation of lies, drama, and teachers pretending to care about bullying. Until it's one of the unpopular students getting bullied, then they couldn't care less. Before I begin, I'd like to make a reference chart for any of my non-American viewers. The 3 years a student attends middle school are 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. In 6th grade, students are 11 and 12. In 7th, they're 12 and 13, and in 8th, they're 13 and 14. I don't remember much of my 6th grade year, which is probably a good thing if I'm being honest. I can't remember there being too much drama. However, like I said before, I was 11 when I was in 6th grade, and frankly, I didn't give a damn about drama. But there is one thing that I do remember. At my school, there was a teacher who, for sake of privacy, I'm going to call Mr. R. Mr. R taught 6th grade English, and I had him in second period with 2 of my best friends. While doing our work, we would often talk to him because he was super nice and always treated us like adults, even when we really didn't deserve it because, like I said before, we were 11. He wasn't a particularly disliked teacher. In fact, as you can imagine, most of his students loved him, and he is still one of my favorite teachers. In second semester of my 6th grade year, the principals announced that there was going to be a chalkboard where you could write nice comments about the school or write down things that you enjoyed. The chalkboard was on wheels and moved from hallway to hallway. It started out pretty normally with kids writing things like art class is fun or I heard a certain middle school that shall remain nameless. But things escalated semi-quickly and after a week someone wrote, "Mr. R smells nice." Like usual, the janitors erased the chalkboard that night. However, in the morning the message was written again. After a few days of this, the teachers started to catch on and had to tell us to stop. But I think that made people write it more. It got to the point where the teachers had to stand and watch us write on the chalkboard to approve the message. But without fail, there was always at least one "Mr. R smells nice" on the board. Needless to say, the chalkboard was not brought back during my 7th or 8th grade years. I can't remember much tea from my 7th grade year. However, while I was in 7th grade, I had a cousin who was in 8th grade. He was the star of the track and cross-country team, and managed to get the phrase "iron calves" banned from our school. How did he do it, you ask? He kept making people feel his calves and asked people to call him iron calves. And of course people felt discomforted by this, and the teachers told them to stop. The next story needs some context. When I started middle school, I advanced in math and world languages because of a teacher recommendation. So in 7th grade, I was taking French 1, a 9th grade course that was offered to 8th graders at my school, and Algebra 1, another 9th grade course offered to 8th graders. So in my French class, I was a 7th grader, surrounded by 8th graders I had never met. It goes without saying that I, a socially awkward introvert, was scared shitless of the kids in that class. To make matters worse, these weren't just any kids. Somehow, all the kids with major behavior issues were put into my class. To make matters even worse, I had French the last period of the day. So these horrible 8th graders that I didn't know were even worsely behaved because they had been sitting in school for 6.5 hours. So as you would expect, French was great. One time, shortly after winter break, a kid smashed the face of his $50 watch he had received as a Christmas present on the side of his desk. My school required every student to take a Chromebook to school. Most students had school-issued Chromebooks, though some brought their own from home. The school Chromebooks had been around since I was in 1st or 2nd grade and were slow as hell. They were all slightly broken because, like I said, they had been around since I was 6 years old. If the Chromebooks weren't already broken, they were on the verge of being so because the design was so awful. So one day, at the start of class, Watchboy and one of his friends decided to chuck one of the Chromebooks across the room like a football, because Madame wasn't in the classroom at the time. After it was thrown back and forth a few times, One of them failed to catch it and it shattered on the floor because, like I said, these Chromebooks were almost 10 years old. Another thing I just remembered as I was writing the script was the time in algebra after the exams when the teacher just scrapped her lesson plans for the rest of the week and we watched The Office for 3 days straight. She probably shouldn't have done that, but I'm not complaining. My 8th grade year was probably the most eventful, or maybe I just became more observant this year. At the end of my 7th grade year and into the start of my 8th grade year, so many kids were caught vaping in the bathrooms that I lost count of them. Moral of the story is, don't vape in the bathrooms. You're going to get caught. The teachers aren't stupid. A broader moral would be don't vape in general, because then you just can't get caught, because you're not doing anything wrong to begin with. So anyways, in the cafeteria, there were these big televisions that the teachers occasionally went online and showed us stuff on. And there were at least 4 porn ads on these televisions throughout the course of the year. The entire cafeteria could see them because it was a pretty big television and placed in a place where everyone would be able to see. I don't know why they weren't blocked because my school blocks literally everything. The fun little dinosaur game that pops up when the internet is down. Blocked. The educational website that my geometry teacher had us use all the time. Blocked. Homestuck.com. Blocked. Okay, the last one is kind of fair, but the others aren't. The administrators really need to sort out their priorities next year. The last few weeks of school was when the most wacky stuff went down. There was at least 3 very violent fistfights in the halls each week for the last 4 weeks of school. At one point, there were 3 kids missing from just my science class because they had in-school suspensions. Also, some kids decided to print out 300 full-color copies of a meme from the school printers, and everyone was banned from touching the printers. At all. Students had to get a pass to pick up stuff for teachers. Now, this story I don't have much information on, but I know that it ended with someone getting arrested. Apparently, on the bus ride home one day, some kids had their legs in the aisle and the bus driver, who was a substitute, stopped the bus and refused to move until the kids got into their seats properly. At this point, someone called their dad, and from what I've heard, the dad showed up and evacuated the bus. Someone posted a video of this online, and in the video, kids were yelling and freaking out, and I could hear the dad yelling and forcing kids to climb out the emergency exit on the back of the bus. He then made them stand on the lawn of the house that the bus was parked at, and wouldn't let any of them move until their parents came and picked them up. I think someone called the police or something, and eventually the dad was taken to jail. On the Friday before the last week of the school year, we were launching bottle rockets in science class, and everyone was crowded around one of the sinks, filling up their rockets with water. I was talking to the science teacher at the front of the room with a couple of other students when the kids at the back started yelling and excitedly talking, and my teacher walked over to find an unpleasant surprise. Someone had taken super glue that was sitting near the sink and super glued a glass beaker to the lab counter. I don't think my teacher ever found out who did it, but the vice principal came down to talk to us, and we almost all didn't go to field day. This next one's a little PG-13, so young ones, watch your ears. At the end of the school year, the teachers always throw a dance called the 8th grade formal in the gym. Apparently, someone dropped a condom on the dance floor, aka the basketball court. You heard that right, someone had a condom at my 8th grade formal, as in the 13 and 14-year-old dance. All I can say is, wow. Just, wow. Okay, moving on. This next story is what really pushed me over the edge to make this video. This is the story of how 3 boys got suspended for 2 weeks towards the end of the year. So in my middle school, we were given a recess, which was technically optional. If anyone wanted to go outside when there was 10 minutes left in the lunch period, they could. Me and my friends often hung out very near the building during recess. We weren't the most popular students, which is the nicest way I could figure out how to phrase that. So you could imagine the panic I felt when almost everyone had their cameras pointed at us and were laughing and pointing in our direction. Were we doing something weird? Well, weirder than usual? I wondered, but as I took a closer look, I realized that the large crowd of students weren't pointing their cameras at where we were standing, but instead upwards towards the roof. My friends and I were very curious, so we ran back to where everyone was standing. The first thing I saw was something orange dart across the roof. No, not something. Someone. I remember being really confused at first, thinking it might have been an animal, but I quickly realized there was a kid on the roof in an orange sweatshirt. Apparently, 3 boys had snuck on the roof during lunch. How? I really don't know. I think someone said there was a ladder in the boys' locker room, but I don't know why they would be in the boys' locker room. All the 8th graders had PE first semester, and this was in the second semester, so I haven't the faintest idea of how they managed to sneak past their gym teacher and into the boys' locker room. Of course, all the teachers eventually caught them, and they were suspended for 2 weeks, but it goes without saying that they went down in history as the Roof Boys. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end of the video. I actually just passed my 5-year anniversary on YouTube, which is so crazy, so consider leaving a like or subscribing. Happy holidays, everyone!